Have you ever felt that knot in your stomach that wasn't just anxiety? Or, a frustration that was way more than just being angry? It turns out the words we use for our feelings are usually just the tip of the iceberg. So today, we're going to dive a little deeper into the language of emotion to find those perfect words for the complex feelings we all have. Let's expand our emotional vocabulary together. I mean, we've all been there, right? You're in a very specific kind of mood, but the basic words like sad or happy just don't really cut it. You're not just sad, you're something else. That something else is exactly what we're going to get into in this explainer. Okay, let's start with a classic, feeling down. It's a phrase you hear all the time, and it's a great little step up from just saying sad. It really suggests a kind of heaviness, the total opposite of feeling up and light. It's also a gentler way to check in on someone. Think about it. You seem a bit down today feels a lot softer and more inviting than just asking, why are you sad? Now, let's move into our first major category. Look, stress and anxiety are a huge part of modern life, and because of that, our language has actually evolved to describe them in some really specific ways. You've probably said this a million times. I'm so stressed out. What's really key here is the source of the feeling. This isn't some vague, random anxiety. No, it's the direct result of having a mountain of things to do. It's that pressure from your to-do list that really defines being stressed out. And this example just illustrates the point perfectly. See how the feeling is directly connected to that huge list of things to do? The pressure of having way too much on your plate, that's the core of being stressed out. Now, what's really interesting about this next one is how it kind of flips the script. While being stressed out is an internal feeling, nerve-wracking describes something external that causes that feeling. It's the situation itself that's making you all nervous and tense. And you can probably relate to these. Giving a presentation can be totally nerve-wracking. Watching a scary, suspenseful movie? Nerve-wracking. Even waiting for tech support to fix your computer when you're on a deadline? Oh my gosh, that is incredibly nerve-wracking. The situation is the source of all that tension. And this brings us to being on edge. This is where that anxiety starts to mix with being irritable. When you're on edge, you're not just nervous. You're tense in a way that makes you super easy to annoy. It's like you're literally on the edge of just snapping at someone. This is a perfect example. That person is dealing with withdrawal, right? And that makes them anxious and really easily agitated. So a small thing that they might normally just ignore could make them really upset, all because they're already on edge. That feeling of being on edge is the perfect bridge to our next section, which is all about moods and anger. Because from that tense, jumpy place, it's a pretty short trip to being outright grumpy or even furious. So let's explore that whole spectrum. So let's talk about being grouchy. Being grouchy isn't necessarily being angry. It's more of a persistent, low-grade bad mood. You're just irritable, you're probably complaining a lot, and you're generally not a whole lot of fun to be around. And if you need a visual, Asker the Grouch is the absolute perfect mascot for this word. I mean, the guy lives in a trash can, complains about everything, and is the living definition of grouchy. It's that constant state of unhappiness and complaining. All right, now let's crank up the intensity. To lose one's temper, well, that's a sudden and often explosive expression of anger. It's not a mood, it's an action. It's that moment someone goes from being calm or maybe just a little irritated to shouting and being visibly furious. They just explode. And what's interesting is the trigger. Sometimes it's a slow burn, like a pile of dirty dishes that just gets bigger and bigger every single day. Or it can be a single sudden spark. Think of that person tapping their pen in a quiet room. Tap, 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 until suddenly you just can't take it anymore. That is losing your temper. Of course, these emotions don't happen in a vacuum, right? They totally affect how we interact with other people. So our next section looks at a couple of phrases that describe how we either create distance or try to close it. Just look at this comparison. On one side, you have brush someone off. When you're in a bad mood, you might ignore someone or make excuses to avoid them. You're basically pushing them away. But on the flip side, we have cheer someone up, the act of trying to make them feel better, to lift their spirits. That's pulling them closer. Okay, for our final section, we're going to look at something that I find truly fascinating. How the exact same words can mean completely different things depending on the situation and, most importantly, your tone of voice. Let's just take this simple little phrase. On the surface, the words are pretty neutral, But what does it actually mean when someone says this to you? Well, it depends entirely on the context. And here is where it all comes together. If your friend tells a hilarious, unbelievable story, you might laugh and say, "Wow, you are something else." And it's a huge compliment, right? But if you find out someone has been lying to you, that exact same phrase, "you are something else," delivered with a cold, hard tone, becomes a total insult. It's an expression of absolute disgust. Same words, opposite worlds. And this really brings us to our key takeaway. Communication is so much more than just words on a page. Your tone, your body language, the situation you're in, all of it can completely transform the meaning of what you're saying. Being a great communicator really means understanding this nuance. So as we wrap up, just think about what we've covered. From feeling on edge to losing your temper, or from brushing someone off to cheering them up. Having the right words doesn't just make you a better speaker, it helps you better understand yourself and the people around you. So my question for you is, what's one new word or phrase you'll try to use today?